Thanks for tuning in to 101.3 BKMG The Farce, coming to you live from separate places, pre-recorded. Now presenting The Bane and Mickey Show. Welcome to another edition of The Bane and Mickey Show.
The Bane and Mickey Show. Episode 7. We're real good at keeping count because we have secrets.
We're numbers. We're good.
I'm a number master.
I'm a numbertician.
I studied at college.
Numerology and numerous things.
Yeah, numerous things for sure. Well, I don't know. I guess to start off, have you seen anything good recently, Gavin?
Well, I watched When a Stranger Calls.
Oh, okay.
The new one, not the reboot, not the old one. Is the first time I'd ever seen it. It was not bad.
Okay.
I don't know. Kind of felt anticlimactic and underwhelming.
Had you seen the original?
No, I didn't know anything about either one of them.
Okay.
I didn't realize, but I did now learn where the quote, the call came from inside the house is from, so. And I watched the new Addams Family movie.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't hate. But I wouldn't say I liked it.
I've heard, mixed things on it. I've been wanting to watch it. Probably watch it like tomorrow. Yeah, it's easily. What didn't you like about it as much?
I don't know. I just didn't really care for the story of it. I didn't feel like it was okay. I think kids will like it because it is more relatable to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're someone who's a fan of like the Raul Julia Addams Family, you're not going to like it.
Is it
as much?
Yeah. Is it kid oriented in a way where it was like, I know the original ones can be kind of spooky and scary for young audiences. Maybe, I mean, it is, but it depends what kind of kid you are. Is this one still scary like that?
It is, but in more of like a comedic way.
Mm-hmm.
In like, so like they'll do kind of scary gags, but they turn them into like funny things, so it's not as scary.
So definitely more kid friendly.
There's a lot more kid friendly, but I mean, I feel like there's some good stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like the cast works, like who they have, because they got Oscar Isaac as Gomez and Charlize Theron as Morticia. But I also feel like, because it was more like a mother-daughter, father-son story, kind of in tangent. So it was more about like Morticia and Wednesday and Gomez and
Pugsley.
Pugsley, yeah.
Yeah.
Then it was about like their whole family as much. And so you don't get a whole lot of really good like Morticia and Gomez moments.
Yeah, because I would say the usual is like Morticia and Gomez have their storyline and then the kids have their storyline. So this is kind of like flipping it a little to mesh,
right?
I guess. But
so
okay.
Well, they do have Gomez and Morticia get married in the beginning, which was kind of cool.
Oh, cute.
But I also just feel like Gomez and Morticia's relationship isn't the same or like as good, I feel like, in this one.
And is that maybe because it's a kid's film that they can't dive into that relationship as well?
Well, like even the little relationship moments they do have, they don't seem as much of the like in love couple that they are in like the other movies, where they're just kind of like super into each other and their family and everything. They seem a little more distant. Kind of, but maybe that's, I don't know.
Okay.
That was just my take on it. But I think it's not terrible.
I mean, it's Addams
Family. Yeah, they're creepy and they're kooky. Though they did give a really good backstory for Lurch.
Oh my gosh.
They're like leaving their town on their honeymoon, and the Lurch is an escaped mental patient, and they hit him with his car, and he was going to attack them, but they give him their bags instead, and so that's how he becomes their butler.
I love it. Oh, Lurch.
Anyway, what have you seen recently?
I watched Spree, which is
What's that?
The new Joe Keery film. And who else is in it? Kyle Mooney is also in it for a little bit. It had, I mean, the producers and directors aren't like super big or known, but it's like a horror comedy slasher thriller kind of thing. It's really really dark in a everyone is fucked up kind of way, but it has great hilarious moments, and I mean it's all based around this idea of social media and like being a content creator, and so the cliches are so perfectly there. It starts out with a draw my life, which is so hilariously done in a stupid way. So it's great, but definitely not for everyone because there's a lot of blood and gore. But it's funny, got a good cast, and it's all filmed from like either mobile like vlogging style or from like security camera style. So it's really unique in that sense. So yeah.
Honestly, it turned me off when you said it had Kyle Mooney in it.
he shows up.
It's not my favorite.
That's fine.
But that's fine.
That's fine.
You're allowed to like what you like.
Yeah.
Speaking of horror comedies, mostly comedies.
Mostly comedy.
That's what we're going to talk about today.
Going to talk a little bit about just comedy in general. Well, comedy specifically in a visual film and television sense, but
things we like and don't like. So this is, largely an opinion one because comedy is subjective.
It is, yeah. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm not turned off by comedy, but I certainly enjoy more dramatic thriller stories. I mean, I like comedy. I don't know. I think
comedy's my jam.
It is your jam. I feel like personally, I might either not turned off, but like when it comes to writing or acting, if it's a comedy, I'm always like, not necessarily not my favorite, but also just like not my forte. Like I don't know what I'm doing as well, I guess. Although I say that, and yet I feel like I've been in a decent amount of comedy roles. But I don't know. I feel like I'm not good at writing it for sure though.
Well, I feel like the thing that makes comedy harder to write than drama is that it's subjective and it's hard to make everybody laugh at the same thing.
And maybe that's what it is for me.
But drama is super easy.
Yeah.
Someone dying is generally always sad. Or the things that are dramatic are always going to be dramatic and sad.
Uh-huh.
Depending on the context.
But everyone has a different sense of humor, so...
like some people like slapstick, some people like clever writing jokes, some people like visual gags, pranks, visual humor, fart jokes, Adam Sandler.
Yeah, you're mentioning there a bunch of different forms of comedy. You've got your regular slapstick, which was probably not the original. Well, it was probably one of the original film comedy ways. One of the first methods of bringing comedy to film.
Well, because there's no other way you couldn't do a lot of those other kinds of jokes. Just because it was silent films.
Yeah, I was watching some Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, and that was the only way to do it was slapstick and physical visual comedy because they're silent films. So, I mean, you can put some, they put some comedy in the written text when they have the dialogue, but it's not as good.
It's also a lot harder to make those jokes land the same depending on what they are because like a good like verbal or written joke generally has to be spoken because it's not always like what the words are, it's like how they're being delivered. Which is one thing you learn, or one thing I've learned while watching a lot of like comedies and sitcoms and other movies is like it's not funny if someone else says it, or if they say it differently it's not as funny. Like if looking at New Girl, which I was just watching, like Schmidt is on like a lot of what he does is funny because he's so over the top and dramatic about everything. That's why it's funny. But if he said it in like a normal way, it just doesn't work as well.
It wouldn't hit the same. Yeah, so you've got written slapstick, you've got the presentation, you've got irony, you've got satire and parody, you've got screwball comedy. Are there any like comedy is kind of your thing, is there any that you lean towards or any that you prefer over others?
Well, I'm a big fan of Judd Apatow. I mean, some movies can be hit and miss, but generally, Judd Apatow does good stuff because he does a lot of the stuff I like, which is like writing
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like verbal humor,
Mm-hmm.
which are some of my favorite ones, or like referential humor.
Yeah, I think that's probably the majority of comedy in this day and age
Right.
is
Just referencing other things. Well, I
referencing,
feel
but
like it's
also the written scripted humor.
right because they're just trying to be more subtle now
Mm-hmm.
instead of sort of in your face, which is why I don't like a lot of parody movies. I don't feel like there's a couple that are good, like Not Another Teen Movie, um, but the ones that are like epic movie that are just jamming a bunch of references and making fun of a bunch of things all at once
Uh-huh.
just don't super work
That's fair. Yeah.
because it's not trying to. It's just like
All over the place.
trying to think of a good, but just throwing stuff at a board and seeing what sticks.
Yes. Yep. What
What
are
about you? What do you watch?
um
What do you think's funny?
yeah. I think I like a lot of physical comedy, probably. I love Jim Carrey. Um and then I mean
Mm-hmm.
even just thinking about like the comedy shows I watch like Psych or The Office, there's a lot of like in Psych, Sean and Gus are always I mean there are I mean there is also written comedy, but I think a lot of like Sean and Gus are just physical goofs. Um, in The Office, you have all of the like
Mm-hmm.
camera fourth wall breaks and whatnot. Um,
Yeah, a good fourth wall break can work.
mm-hmm.
I feel like what's interesting about like slapstick is that it's sort of kind of had to evolve because like Three Stooges,
Mm.
um, it's kind of the big one that I can think of where it's a lot of like physical hitting and whatnot. But they made a reboot that didn't do anything to anybody
Yeah,
at all.
yeah,
Um, because it's just not the same. But things, it's also sort of like the surprise element of it, like who it's happening to, when it's happening to, why it's happening, sort of things like Kevin with the chili in the office,
oh my
like when he
gosh,
drops
yeah,
it, like that's great because Kevin is finally doing like this one nice thing, but no one's gonna know about it
uh-huh, uh-huh,
because he dropped his chili.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love the moments of like there's all these various Dwight moments like in the CPR one when he cuts off the mask. Um, and then there's the episode where there's the bat and all of them
Hmm.
reacting to the bat, or Jim pretending to be a vampire.
Um, but I think it just goes back to like I don't know, sort of where it's happening and why it's happening, and
Uh-huh.
like the things that why it's actually funny
Right.
because it wouldn't work in a show that was like less grounded. You know what I mean? Because it's in an office. That's also part of like the underlying
Right.
what makes it funny, or like jimming the camera is sort of like the punctuation to a joke, which sort of like helps it land. I think
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because it's like, oh boy, we're gonna do all this and this. Oh brother.
Right. These yeah moments. What are some of what do you I mean, I guess this is subjective, but what is like the best form of I don't know. That's very subjective. Can we even talk about
That's
that?
not a. That's a like the best comedy film.
Not like the best form of
Oh,
comedy, but I guess that's
the
kind of
best
just
form.
changing it to favorite. We'll change it to favorite. What then is your least favorite kind of comedy?
Sort of brought it up, but parodies stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the parody, I guess. Like I said, like that stint in the early 2000s with like Epic Movie and Meet the Spartans and Disaster Movie. Those are all just so bad. But like Not Another Teen Movie, Spaceballs. Mel Brooks actually kind of is pretty much the only one that does parody that works. in any kind of way, because it's not about making fun of specific things. Kind
Mm-hmm.
of, it's more like the systems that they are in place. I don't know, that's not really the right word, but because he's trying to do his own thing, but it's sort of like making fun, like Spaceballs works because it's not really making fun of Star Wars specifically.
Just all
It's
those
sort of
space
like
sci-fi.
a parody of the sci-fi genre, but
Yeah.
while also being its own movie. So it's not trying to follow these beats and other things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, Robin Hood Men in Tights, which is obviously making fun of Robin Hood, but it's not about that. It's more about how they just keep doing Robin Hood and how they're not really doing it well.
Yeah. I don't know what my least favorite would be. I don't know. I think they're agreeing with you in that there are some good, like, I enjoy a good parody. Um, like all the Star Kid musicals on YouTube. Um,
Right.
I love those. And
And I feel like the other thing, sorry,
no.
is the element of like homage to them.
Yeah.
Because they're not just making fun of it. They're
It's
sort of
also an
like,
homage, which I
this
think
is something we like, so we care about it, but
right.
we're also like, these things don't make sense.
Which I think it makes them good in a sense. You know, that's what makes it good compared to like a different parody, like you were saying. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm not as big of a comedy buff, I would say. So I don't know.
Not a big Adam Sandler fan, but
I've never really been
that's more of a
either.
personal opinion.
Right.
I feel like if you like Adam Sandler, I don't really hold that against you. I just don't like him that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a couple of his movies, but yeah.
Yeah.
If someone's like, "Do you want to watch all the Adam Sandler movies?" I'm like, "No, not at all. I would
uh,
really not enjoy that one bit."
yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's certainly a few that I enjoy
Well, going back to
individually,
like
but I agree. I'm not a huge Adam Sandler fan.
Jim Carrey is a good
Yeah,
example. You
I
brought up
love Jim Carrey.
he's a good way like to make slapstick work sort of in the present because he's
He's the
not just doing
modern
like
yeah, he's the modern slapstick comedian, physical
it's like Buster
comedian.
Keaton.
Right, for sure. You know, when they started bringing sound to films,
Mm-hmm.
you can still keep up that classic slapstick, but I don't yeah, he just does it well. He's got voices, he's got facial expressions. It's great. I could watch
This
every
whole thing.
if someone I could do that if someone was like, let's watch all the Jim Carreys, I'd be like, oh, I'm already there. Where have you been for the
That's what I've
last
been
five
doing.
films? No.
Yeah.
I think one of
Well, I feel
my
like. Go ahead.
I think one of my favorite Jim Carreys is The Mask. Um, I think also because it's a comic book super villain satire in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a new take on those, but I love those ones. That and The Grinch. I love his Grinch role. And Ace Ventura. I mean, just name them
A
all.
lot of his early work.
Just all of it. What were you gonna say before?
Sorry, I have a wild animal crawling over my desk.
Hey, kitty. Will he say hi to the podcast? Do you know how to make him mew? Like if he like meowed into the microphone?
Yeah, but I mean that's the only thing that would make him mad. And now he's laying down. Anyway, I was gonna talk about like how The Mask is a really good example of like The Mask and Dumb and Dumber are sort of like big Jim Carrey's physical roles.
Yeah.
And while I mean, some of it's CGI for The Mask, it's still a lot of like if you told me that Jim Carrey actually did that, I would believe you.
I mean, because he's they still use him as a basis to like do things. They just then add holes in him and like warp his body a little more and whatnot. But yeah. Yeah.
I feel like a sort of underappreciated comedic person these days is Edgar Wright.
Ooh.
Maybe not underappreciated, but
Maybe,
I feel like when you think
you don't always consider
comedy
comedy.
people, you don't think Edgar Wright, which is weird because he's got like Spaced, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz,
Well, I think they're also
World's End,
because it's
Scott
a
Pilgrim.
because they're all often mixed genres that people maybe don't see comedy as the top or as the first one that comes to mind. But I totally agree. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is like when you mix genres with comedy, it has to either be more comedy than anything else, or actually, I feel like it usually gets defined as something else, like rom coms or more romance movies. They're not comedic movies or horror
Right.
comedies or
Right.
horror movies. They're not comedy movies. Like
Yeah.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil is probably my favorite one.
Well, so would you include like Hot Fuzz an action movie or a comedy movie?
I mean, it's an action comedy, but if you were to ask people, they'd probably call it an action movie or like an action homage.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I
I
guess it's more of an action movie.
In a similar vein, I would say like Wes Anderson has a really good comedy repertoire, but again, you don't I think comedy is not the first thing that comes to mind. But a lot of I would say also like in like Grand Budapest Hotel, that comes to mind is like there's very physical comedy in that with what's his name? With Ray Fiennes.
I feel like another thing that we're sort of touching on now is like a good comedy. There's no real like straight comedy movies,
Right.
um, that aren't mostly something else that people actually like.
Yeah, I was
That
gonna.
seems like a weird sentence.
I mean, I was gonna
because
say like Raising Arizona, but that has action sequences.
I mean, it's more of like a dramedy. Honestly,
Right.
I mean, it's
Well, yeah.
funny. Like it's. I feel like that's one thing that you sort of get that makes comedies work now is they're sort of mixed genre where they're like only 20% jokes, like the Marvel movies. Like Edgar Wright, like I was just saying, like it's an action movie, but it's also very funny,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Uh,
So, how do you think, like, going into a script or a story like that, do you think they come at it like we're going to write a comedy and then they throw in some action elements, or it's like we're going to write an action movie and then they throw in some comedy elements? Which comes
I
first?
think, well, I would say that like two of the prime examples of like action comedies would be Hot Fuzz and 21 Jump Street because they're sort of homaging action movies and their source material, but they're doing their own thing and sort of referencing back to it. So they're probably coming at it from more of like, we're making an action movie, but it's not going to be like a serious Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator, Sylvester Stallone, Rambo type
Yeah.
action movie. It's going to be more free form and fun.
What then are
instead of
your
the seriousness.
thoughts on The Other Guys?
Oh, The Other Guys. I only saw that one time.
Because that's like
But from
action comedy.
what I remember, I would put it in a similar category of action comedies. I wouldn't say it's like amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like that also affects how the movie comes across, like what angle you're going at it from. Because if you're going at it, because like I was saying, I don't think like a just comedy movie really works as well. Like I can think of like Superbad maybe. But then you get things. Man, these are all just like Seth Rogen, Judd Apatow movies. I don't know, a lot of Adam Sandler movies that I feel like don't work because they're just trying to be funny the whole time.
Right.
But the ones that work are not just that. But like Sausage Party. I mean, I feel like there's other things that make those movies not work, but that definitely I feel like is contributing because they're just trying to be 100% funny 100% of the time and they're missing some of the other elements in there.
For sure, yeah. I can see that. What about, so that's films and whatnot. I think comedy in films has a different, mm, maybe not aesthetic, but a different mood and tone to it than comedy in television. I think we see a lot more comedy in television.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well, it's shorter.
consistent comedy, at least.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's different too because the problem, not the problem with movies, but the thing that's hard with movies is you have to convey all these different things
Mm-hmm.
in such a short, relatively short time frame of like 2 hours or an hour and a half.
Well, but what about like a 20-minute television episode?
Right. It is shorter technically, but if you say you have like an average, so you're doing like a 22-minute episode and you're doing, 20 episodes, that's 400 and something minutes. So that's a lot more time to do jokes or draw them out or uh, make them pay off, and while also doing character stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a lot to kind of mush in there.
Right. Because it's hard to have a character who's like developed and funny and doing these other things in, 90 minutes, 2 hours.
Yeah. And making sure it's
But if
all
you
succinct.
have like 4 hours, it's way easier.
What are some of your favorite television comedies?
Community,
Mm-hmm.
30 Rock, Friends,
Mm-hmm.
Psych.
Yep.
I feel like Psych is one of those few kind of anomaly shows because it's not a sitcom, which is normally where you get a lot of like funnier
Right.
stuff. But like that, um, Whiskey Cavalier, which got the one season hack,
Mm-hmm.
Firefly a little bit, which also got hacked. I don't know. You just don't see a lot of hour long shows that are also very funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, considering they're long episodes. Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of my shows are pretty similar. The shows that I will just also could watch anytime and anywhere, Community, The Office, Psych. Um, I think I just don't delve towards comedy as much. Like I said, I love drama. So, there's shows like Jack introduced me to Principles, which is pretty good, and Baskets, um, which they're not. Nah, I mean, they're not sitcoms in like a Friends Big Bang Theory sense, but they're kind of more. Mm, I don't know. But yeah, let's. Yeah.
The thing that I've also noticed is like hour long shows are trying to be a little bit funnier,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of an interesting trend. Like, oh boy, I said that and now I can't think of one. Like Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, yeah. You got all those
Um,
one-liners.
right. That's
Um,
sort of like also in the mix with like that superhero genre.
right. Kind of like a Deadpool
Hmm.
sense. What would you categorize I mean, Deadpool is obviously a superhero film, but
Hmm.
he's a comedic character. I mean, that's the way he is in the comics. And I
More
mean,
of an action
action
comedy
comedy,
than,
yeah,
yeah.
because that's
It's sort of
the
in the
basis.
subgenre of superhero film, but it'd be like comedy, action, superhero movie.
Is he really a
Because those are the
super?
elements it focuses on more than being a superhero,
Right, right.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. Um, what are your thoughts on like stand-up comedians, but stand-up comedians now like filming their shows, or you have Middleditch and Schwartz, like they specifically filmed those to go online visually. I mean, what are your thoughts on that in terms of like comparing it to like television or movies and what genre if it fits in one of those?
Yeah, it's technically a comedy, but I don't know if you can call it like a movie or a show.
Yeah.
Middleditch and Schwartz is like sort of a show because it's episodic in
Mm-hmm.
nature, but it's there. I don't know. It's more like a road show or like a sideshow type thing.
Yeah.
It's not like a TV show.
Well, but then you have like
Um,
I remember, I mean, not growing up, but maybe when I was like 10 or 11, we would watch a bunch of like Jim Gaffigan because on Netflix he would have just various, episodes.
mhm.
So it was like you go on Netflix and you go to the Jim Gaffigan special, and then there's like 20 episodes of him. Maybe not well,
He had a
maybe,
show.
yeah, he had a show. Maybe I'm not thinking, maybe it was someone else. But, like stuff like that where they have like multiple. I'm definitely thinking of someone else though. But I mean, I did watch a lot of Jim Gaffigan specials,
Well, I
but
feel like the
someone else
thing
had a
that's
series.
been sort of interesting about like stand-up comedians is since the rise of like Netflix and now Amazon and Hulu are doing it a little bit. HBO's always done it,
Uh
but
huh.
now more people are able to see these performances, which
Right.
is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's not really like a film or a movie or anything. It's just sort of I don't really know what you would call it.
Yeah. I don't know what to call it either. I'm trying to look and see if they're still on here, but
I mean,
I mean, there's a whole.
I
I
guess.
literally just looked up trying to find someone on Netflix. You look up stand up, and there's so many options. And, well, a lot of them are also Netflix originals or Netflix produced or.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I think that's one other thing is now like since Netflix is doing a lot of those, you get exposed to more people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh, you like John Mulaney, you'll probably like this guy too.
Yeah, I think it's great for comedians in a sense then that they can do that, but it's also like it's not the start of any of their careers really.
Hmm.
It's
Well, like,
they've already been established either through
mhm,
like SNL or talk shows or just stand up, having done stand up for a
right.
while or being well-known comedic actors.
Hmm. Well, and then usually, like at some point, they try and give him a show, which doesn't often work, in my opinion. We call Seinfeld more the anomaly than the rule. I mean, I don't like Seinfeld that much,
I
but
did. Yeah, I never got into it.
I just didn't really like the way they formatted it. I think it was kind of like you would tell a joke, they would do part of the episode that was related to that, do another joke, and wasn't my thing.
Hmm.
It was sort of the problem I had when John Mulaney had his show. It was pretty much just like his jokes
Right.
in
Which
a
is
live
at that point
format.
it's just a stand-up comedy routine,
Right.
which is fine and entertaining. And yeah, it's great that they're more accessible if you can't go see those regularly or you don't live where they're usually based. But
It's more like a humorous TED talk.
it is, yeah, in a way.
It's like kind of a funny documentary, a live autobiography,
Sure,
storytelling.
sure.
I don't know.
What are your thoughts then on like late night and like show hosts and talk shows and the comedy there and like
It's
they're
more like
always
news.
yeah.
It's just a different kind of news. I mean, their focus is to be like funny and entertaining, but I don't know if it falls in like. I mean, it falls in the comedy category for sure,
Hmm.
but it's more like news and infotainment.
Right. But probably just to get it out there to a broader audience in a sense.
And I don't know how much of it is always, anyways, trying to be like specifically humorous.
Yeah.
Like The Daily Show, Trevor Noah's not. I mean, he's trying to be funny, yes, but he's also not like. Usually, when he does something, he'll be like, show a clip, talk about it, say basically a punchline that
Hmm.
sort of contradicts or something sort of ironic or contradictory about it. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, sort of thing.
Do you watch like the Tonight Show, like Jimmy Fallon?
Sometimes not like religiously.
Yeah.
I also don't have cable.
That's fair. I mostly just watch the YouTube like clips, but because it's like
They're kind of actually like live podcasts. Like before podcasts were a big thing. That's kind of actually what they're like.
a little bit, yeah. But then,
Because you think about like a lot of celebrity podcasts are just them talking to other
yeah,
celebrities and people they know about things,
and I guess it just depends if they want it to be more serious or comedic,
and they,
in a sense.
play games and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Just to
It's a
capture
different
a
way of
certain
getting the
audience.
news.
It is. It is. What's
I guess it's like a funny news show.
How do you feel about Saturday Night Live?
I like SNL. It's sort of a fun way to see like sketch comedy, or
Uh
if you're
huh.
not familiar with it, and
Another way
like
to
live
also kind of
shows.
bring the news, but
Yeah, but in a much different way. I
yeah,
feel like much more biased,
yeah.
or more subject to bias. I feel like, but then also I feel like it's supposed to be funny, but it's just sort of supposed to like let people see like putting like what a live show can look like, or if you
Hmm.
don't get the chance to go to the theater
I mean,
or see those
it's
types of
yeah,
things.
it's satire in a Yeah,
I don't know if it's really satire. It's not always satire. I feel like.
it's not always. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. To me, I mean, I get. It feels to me like if you were ever to go see an improv troupe or an improv show,
Mm-hmm.
in that
And if
live, they
sorry,
have that
Kevin.
live sense to it, but it's not necessarily improv.
I think the other thing about it is it's like it's for the audience, obviously, but I feel like the people that go and work there just want to do things so they can have like a different thing every week,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so it's not
It's a good
just
variety for sure.
well, yeah, it's a variety show, so it's like well, I don't have to be the same character every week. I don't have to do the same
Uh
lines. I don't
huh.
have to be so and so for however long,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're Keenan.
Did you ever watch Key and Peele?
A bit, yes.
I never watched it when it was like live. I just would go back. They did just have good, it's another sketch comedy
But
example.
I feel like it's more socially conscious.
Uh huh. Uh huh. And that one, I would say that's a lot more written
Mhm.
comedy.
And kind of more charactery.
Yeah.
I feel like it's also just sort of like them being like, these are the cool things that we can do, and this is why we're smarter and better than you.
Oof.
But also
Keeping it
because they are.
real.
They're great.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that negatively. I just meant that, Key and Peele should have all the jobs.
I mean, they took that and now they're doing more. You know.
Hmm. I feel like it's also good to know when something is done.
Right. Right.
Like they
Yeah.
didn't
For
go
sure.
forever.
For sure. I mean, that's where you get a lot of TV shows that go on for 15 billion seasons.
Well, something interesting with like Key and Peele before them was like Monty Python. Like they
Uh huh.
didn't do that show for very long,
They really
but people
didn't.
feel like it. They I think they only did it for like 2 years.
Yeah. And then they, yeah, the show
But just
itself. And
because
then,
of
I
like
mean,
the
they have their
cultural
specials, but
impact
like,
and the movies, but I think it's just because like the cultural impact of it.
it was maybe a little early for the content.
Maybe I guess they went for like 4 seasons,
Yeah.
but there's only like 70 episodes.
All good stuff.
45 episodes,
Oh, wow.
so not a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's something.
So that's some comedy. I don't know. What other thoughts do you have on
Ha 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 ha.
it? As a writer and an actor,
Actor, what? That's not me.
I feel like whenever you're on camera, it's in some comedic.
Well, as long as I have the one character. Sort of dorky dad guy.
That's not true.
Isn't it, though? Think about it. Blue Haze, dorky dad detective. That one with the shop, dorky dad owner.
Yeah, records of...
Off the record.
Off the record.
I Hate You Dad, dorky dad, okay. Cocaine,
okay.
Smuggler.
What, in terms of when you write...
It's like Seth Rogen.
Goddamn. when you go about writing comedy, I don't know.
I just write what makes me laugh and hope other people find it funny also. Because, like I was saying earlier, it's hard to make comedy that appeals to everybody.
Right.
So you kind of have to just make stuff for you a little bit. Like, you can do things that sort of work or have been proven or, reference things that people might get. But at the end, I just do it to make me laugh, and I don't care if anybody else does. I learned that from Adam Sandler.
Yeah. I mean, you should be doing that with any genre and any form of art, really.
I also just feel like that makes it better.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't do a lot of comedy stuff, but I feel like it's still applicable. Like, how do you go about, like, writing things, or, like, how you decide to make something funny? Since you, like you say, you do more dramatic stuff. Like...
When I decide to make something funny, I call Jack and I have him write it for me. No, like, I always made the joke when we were writing Blue Haze, I was like, you're writing the comedy and I'm writing the drama. And that's why there's two of us on this script. No, yeah, I don't know. I think I just don't. I have either a very specific sense of humor, or I'm just a tough nut to crack. And so I can't write comedy. And I guess when I act comedy, it's because someone else has given me the lines and told me what to say and do, and then I can go do it. I would say I don't improvise. I'm not a heavy improviser or physical comedian, or I don't know. Is that true about I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You've been in more stuff that people have seen, so what can I know?
How? But not comedy. I don't know.
I
think the comedy... I've done, like, character comedy where it's, like, based on ironic characters. And then...
What about that play you did where you were the goalie?
That was not a comedy. I mean, it is a comedy, but I didn't say any of the comedic stuff.
You're just chilling.
And my scenes were not comedic. They were all dramatic.
Nerd.
I know. I'm trying to think, because, like, I did Crazy Animals, which is a comedy, but my character was not the comedian. Like, you had Everett doing all of that. So I don't know.
I don't know either. I just sort of do the one thing, like Seth Rogen.
Beautiful. And we love you for it.
Someone's got to be the dorky dad type, and
so
I'm dorky and daddy enough to do it.
So how did Garrett get cast as Elliot's dad and not you?
Because Garrett's a better actor than me. And I don't know.
I don't remember why it came up. Maybe I was talking to Sonova. But I remembered the other day about Toddy and the Burnout and how we were going to do that spin-off series.
That'd be another perfect example where you're the dramatic one and I am the funny one.
Right.
Picked on by you.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what it was. I was editing my reel, and I came across the moment where I tripped you on my skateboard.
I mean, we could still do that. We can still do Toddy and the Burnout.
Oh my god. No, it's fine. Well,
I'll only wear shirts with bulldogs on them because they have great jobs.
And I'll wear flannels and hoodies. And ripped jeans.
And you'll always be like right about to light a joint, but then you won't.
But then I won't. Because fire hazards.
You'll be like this close and then we'll cut away.
There's that one moment when they're looking at the cast list, and I'm just there constantly flicking the lighter because I can't actually light it, or we'd get in trouble.
Or you're trying to light the cast sheet on fire.
Yeah, honestly. Well, I think it's about that time we do some random topics. Insert an audience laugh track. They're just laughing at our failures, and that's fine.
Someone has to.
I agree. Alrighty. Oh, I should.
Yellow.
Is it really random if we choose colors before we do it? I don't know.
I don't know what's on the yellow papers. I just picked
the
colors that I liked.
Alrighty. What? Okay, well, there's two here. The first one says pineapple, ? And it's crossed out with an X.
Mysterious.
I know.
Makes me think of Psych.
It does also make me think of Psych. It also makes me think of, crap, I don't know the movie. A movie where there's an X marks the spot. That's a lot of movies. I want
pick a pirate movie.
to eat pineapple now. And then it says goth AF angsty teen.
Well, that sort of flows in with what we were just talking about.
It does.
Toddy and the Burnout.
It does.
No, I was never really a goth emo teen. I was just sort of a by myself guy.
Yeah, I was goth, like in a punk. No, like I don't know, in a grunge way. Like I was never like an emo or a scene kid. I was the grunge.
And you're still like that today,
kid.
Right?
Yeah, so I don't know. Was it a phase? No, Mom, it's not a phase.
This is my life.
This
Bon Jovi
is my destiny.
My destiny.
But yeah. I don't know.
All right. I don't know.
Should we do another one? That was kind of short.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's pop in another one of those.
Alrighty. Here we go. I choked on my own spit.
Gross.
Who would you cast in a biopic of your life? Cast as yourself as well as like secondary characters. I mean, since you said it, I think in a biopic of myself where you were involved, I'd have to cast Seth Rogen.
I'd be all right with that. Or you'd either have to cast like Seth Rogen or like the exact opposite, like Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh my gosh.
Or like Robert Redford.
Yeah.
But he's still playing like a 20-year-old.
Who would I cast as myself? I gotta look him up though. That's terrible.
Well, I'll talk about who I would cast.
Yeah, who would you cast?
I would cast Michael Rosenbaum as me. Just so I could make him shave his head again. Because I think it'll be great. Because he was the best Lex Luthor.
Oh my gosh. Who would you cast?
I think
as
you, I would probably cast. It's a tough one. Do I want to make you mad, or do I want to try and be nice? I'd cast Kevin as Larry the Cable Guy, obviously, or Jeff Foxworthy.
Oh my gosh!
Just to be funny, because he'd be mad. Cast Kendall Jenner.
Oh God.
Just kidding.
I'd burn the
mean.
set
I don't
down.
hate you that much. I don't hate you that much.
God, what's her name?
Actually, you know what? I know who it would be. Like just a slightly younger Helena Bonham Carter.
Ooh, I'll take it. Who would you cast as Brie?
Michelle Rodriguez.
Ooh. There we go. What's her name? Ruby Rose. That's who I was thinking of. I would cast Ruby Rose as myself. Too. Yeah.
That'd be a good one. I'm still going to stick with Helena Bonham Carter.
I'll take Helena Bonham Carter. Who would I cast Jack as? Who would you cast Jack as?
I was just thinking about it. Who would I make Jack be?
What's his name? Nah.
Steve Yeun.
That's great, actually.
Actually, you know what? I might do like.
I was gonna say John Cho
from Goonies. Oh, no.
No.
Data from Goonies, but with the personality of the doll from Dead Silence.
Oh my god. Who? Oh my gosh. Actually, yeah, no, yeah. Richard Wang plays.
I don't know who that is.
He plays Data in Goonies. Oh. No, I can see that is. Oh my gosh! What if there was a like a flashback to childhood, and then you just have Data as Jack? Who else?
Or like a creepier Ken Jeong.
Oh my god. My best friend would be Amy Poehler, maybe.
That could work.
Who would you cast Jordan as?
I was just thinking about that. I feel like Jordan would be Timothée Chalamet.
Oh my gosh.
No. That's not Jordan. His head is way too round. Present day Jack Nicholson.
Ooh.
Or Tom Cruise.
But maybe Tom Cruise, because I don't know if he could get that like creepy Jack. I don't think he's the creepy Jack Nicholson. Like.
Or should we flatter him and say that he's Channing Tatum?
Huh? If I said Tom Holland, he would be pleased.
That'd be a terrible choice for Jordan.
Just because Spider-Man. I can see Tom Cruise. Yeah.
I'm just sort of trying to pick different choices.
I know. Well, who would you cast Sonova as?
I'd cast Sonova as Zoe Deschanel, but she has to be like Jess from New Girl.
Another person. I could also cast Aubrey Plaza as myself.
Or Sonova could be cast as anybody from BTS.
Michael called who?
BTS, that
who would be group. Who would you cast?
Sonova.
Oh,
could be any one of them.
I would cast Michael Caldwell or Nick Offerman would be my Michael Caldwell.
No, I feel like there's a way better Michael Caldwell.
Who?
Harrison Ford.
Ooh,
Harrison Ford.
That's a good one.
Is Caldwell.
What about Patrick? Tom Holland.
Keanu. Or a young Clint Eastwood.
Chris Pratt.
Yes.
And final one, Melissa.
Who are you going to cast Melissa as? We better be nice, because she's going to hear this eventually.
I know.
She might not come back on the podcast if we give her a bad one.
Also, if we cast Melissa, do we also have to cast Maria?
I feel like we'd have to, otherwise we're just excluding people for no reason.
Okay. Okay, I'll think of Maria, you think of Melissa. Oh, God.
Meryl Streep for Maria.
Ooh, that's a good one. How about Melissa?
Melissa, I don't know, man. That's hard. Sigourney Weaver.
Or for either of them, Winona Ryder? Maybe more Maria? No.
No, I don't think so.
Sigourney Weaver, though. That's a great one. Okay. We'll settle on that.
All right.
I think that's probably good enough.
That's probably enough. If you're still listening, please tune in next week. So hopefully you can hear some good content and not whatever that rambling was.
Yeah. Next week
we'll definitely be talking about the Spider-Verse.
Speaking of Jordan Wilson.
Delve deep right into it.
Maybe. Alrighty. Thank you all for listening and putting up with our ramblings. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.